has joined us today. Everybody that has joined us today. So I see we've got Mama Ponya. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you for joining us. We have Noktula, we have Lwazi, we have Amgelani, we have Dikeledi, we have Victor, we have Amanda, we have Hey, I don't know if I should call him Daba because I know he's my friend's uncle, granddad. And so in like subconsciously, my mind is like Ubabundaba, Undabi rather. And then we've got Nomaqhawe, who is our wonderful guest speaker for today. And so welcome everybody, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so glad to have you here and we cannot wait for you to experience this with us. And we trust that it's gonna be so informative and so helpful and it'll give us something to work on and to take away long after the conversation has ended. And so without wasting any more time, I will introduce our beautiful guest, who's Nomaqhawe Molife. And yeah, Nomaqhawe, you are welcome. You are welcome, and we're so grateful to have you here. So Nomaqhawe is a PhD candidate in migration studies. She is also a speaker, a conversationalist, a creative, and an artist, and more than anything, she's my friend. But yeah, Noma, thank you for joining us. And it's your turn now. We want to hear from you, Noma.
Alrighty. Hi, everyone. Please do let me know. Can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you.
Okay, great. So I feel load shedding has done a number on me. And so I'm using natural light. At some point, it's going to get dark, guys. That is the situation. I'm no longer visible, but while we still have lights, here I am, I'm present. Thank you so, so much, Jedidah, for the opportunity to be able to just share my thoughts, my heart on this topic. Thank you so much to the organizers of this support group for creating this space, because I think sometimes it's always been bigger narratives that kind of brush past the intricate, details of mental health conversations. A part of me wishes you didn't do that roll call because now the names, the names are deeper. But thank you so, so much to the familiar faces that JD did mention that have logged on. I truly, truly do appreciate you. And without further ado, I will jump right into it. So I think just as a precursor, my discussion is going to be very much a mixture of the research that I did, my thoughts, my reflections, personal stories. And so some parts might feel very performative in terms of how I'm expressing myself, sound very and I'm just gonna roll with it. Okay. Cool. Location, location, location. Who remembers that real estate show on TV where couples would have a vision of their house and they'll get a real estate agent to curate houses that they can come and view according to these specifics? Often, when they would eventually go and see these houses, they realize very quickly that compromises had to be made. Either settle for a smaller kitchen so that they have the glorious beachside view, or break bank because they found the house that they want. Or even just settling for a house because it's got good bones and hope that, in time they'll be able to renovate. I digress. My point with this tangent was that you need to have a clear picture of what makes you you, basically who you are. Then you can decide what you want. Then you can seek the assistance you need to find what you want. And chances are, like the reality of gravity, you're going to have to make compromises. But because you understand who you are and you know yourself and you know what to prioritize, you're able to define what you can live without. And your final decision will always feel like a win. Location, location, location. When it comes to mental health issues, it's very critical for us to be sensitive to context. Firstly, the definition of mental health I'll be referring to is from the Center of Disease and Control. And it says, I quote, mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. My talk will be putting on the spotlight the part where it says it affects how we think, how we feel, and how we act. How we think, feel, act. Think, feel, act. Adapt or die, literally. Of course, sometimes it just means the choice that you're going to have to make will come at a high cost. To varying degrees, we all are working towards financial stability, dignity in the lives that we choose, and feeling accepted and valued. Getting these things comes with a set of rules that don't look the same for everyone, making life unfair, a very common phrase that we know. And in our humanness, we cry foul for those people who get to do that, or who get away with that, or who accumulate more than us. And unfortunately, when we call out that behavior, the person we're calling out is then affected because they feel like, wait, they didn't realize their existence was a problem. Context, context, context. Yes, you all know where I'm taking this conversation. Unfortunately, even if you're going to cringe or roll your eyes or feel drained, like, oh, we always have to take it here, it doesn't change the facts. And maybe you need to start confronting yourself about why you think that way. You feel that way, and why you act that way. Are you a perpetrator or a victim? Are you a perpetrator and victim? Are your thoughts mirroring the perpetrator and your feelings a victim?
Noma, your mic has
Okay. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm not sure where I cut off. Please may you let me know.
You were at the portion where you asked if our feelings are mirroring the perpetrator. Yes.
Thank you so much, JD. Are your thoughts mirroring a perpetrator and your feelings a victim? What do your actions look like? A big part of our modern world today is governed by white supremacist principles and ideas. Those who do not naturally conform to these in thoughts, feelings, or actions generally struggle to achieve those things I mentioned earlier: financial stability, a dignified life, as well as feeling valued. Racism is a concept that tries to express for non-whites identifying groups, a decent life is a struggle. Anti-Blackness further argues that if I am perceived to be or look like I'm of African descent, the challenges are even bigger. And here I'm just highlighting the fact that if your hair is more coilier, your nose is wider, the general stereotypes, you're darker. There's a very particular and specific way in which you experience prejudice and discrimination, even from non-white conforming people. Sexism further explains how we differentiate unjustified disadvantages on the basis of sex. Tribalism explains that because you do not conform to how I do things in my culture, I don't like you. And therefore, an unjustified way of expressing prejudice or having negative attitude towards someone. Afrophobia, based on a mentality of prejudice, discrimination towards anyone of African origin or their African culture. This one blew my mind. Familism. It's a culture where the emphasis of putting your family first over yourself. Listen, I did the research on the isms. I could go on. The point I'm making here is, where does that leave me? What do I get? Is there space for me to even exist? Am I not good enough? Do I not deserve a decent life? I keep contorting myself to appease people, to fit in. There are all these unfair rules, these stereotypes, these prejudices and discrimination. We end up normalizing these injustices and ridicule the language that tries to advocate for it, and end up despondent in challenging the unfairness. Self-loathing. This is an extreme criticism of oneself. It may feel like nothing you do is good enough, or that you're unworthy or deserving of good things. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That is rather a strong term. I don't know if I loathe myself. It's just the world clearly hates me. It makes it hard for me to even start reflecting and accepting who I am. The world has conditioned me on how I think about myself and how I think, feel, and act. Self-loathing can be caused by the following things: trauma, false expectations, pleasing others, perfectionism, and social comparison. I'm going to illustrate this with a story that's very personal to me. You guys might have heard bits and bobs, especially those who know me. How is it that the thing that defines me the most causes me so much pain? My name, Nomaqhawe Molife. Nomaqhawe Molife, my name, has always prompted attention towards myself that most of the time I do not like or want or ask for. I often have to stand and bite my tongue when people try to say my name, or when they do say my name, as they express some very injuring, stereotypical runs. Your people have audacity. You will be shocked. How do you pronounce your name? Nomaqhawe. You Africans and your ridiculous language. Anyways, I'm going to call you Norma. From a very young age, I realized insisting on my full name meant that I would not be called in class. Guys, come hear this girl's name. Nomaqhawe, Nomaqhawe. You Ndebele people and your names. You must choose names we can all pronounce. Anyways, do that clicking thing again. Say a sentence in your clicking language. Again, from a very young age, I learned sometimes to make friends. You have to play along with stereotypical, false representations of who you are in order to be accepted and to fit in. Nomaqhawe, Molife, uye nomXhosa, Sotho, kodwa ukhuluma isiZulu. Why uhlanganisa isiZulu nesiXhosa? Actually, it's Ndebele from Zimbabwe, though. I'm Zimbabwean. Yo. You Zimbabweans, listen, you are everywhere. All you do is take and destroy, like you destroyed your country. Now you want to come do that here. Did you see your friend last week? Just last week we burnt him. So if you come here with your nonsense, we'll burn you too. I learned very quickly, it's easier to be rude and look like I'm unapproachable so that I don't blow my cover and I can hide. Not everyone's accepting of who I am. Molife, you're Molife's kid. He must be so proud to have a firstborn daughter like you. I hear you're going to be a doctor. That means you're gonna make so much money. Not a medical doctor, but it's fine. Young lady, how old are you? You're 29. At your age, and the money you're gonna be making, you probably won't be able to get married. Your lobola is gonna be too expensive. Also, no one wants a know-it-all wife. Hope you enjoy what you can from life. I'm always reminded in my older years that my personal ambition will always undermine my desire for a romantic relationship. Oh, babe, I can't wait to give you my last name. Wait, why are you frowning like that? Don't come here with your feminist things. Come on, relax. I'm just saying. What they never realize is the anxiety on my face has nothing to do with hating men, but everything to do with the very gendered way of our traditions and cultures. The fact that I am raised to know that at some point in my life, I have to let go of everything familiar to me, including a part of my name. I have to accept and trust the strangers and their family that I'm gonna go into will love and accept me, that they are kind in me learning their ways, and accept that, again, another rodeo of managing bits of myself, yet I had mastered it for this long. But maybe I just think too much. Nomaqhawe, Molife, and you can't even speak vernac. Queen, come on. You don't even know your roots, your traditions. What is your culture anyways? If only you knew how I spent most of my life in boarding school, where if you spoke vernac or your accent was thick, you were ridiculed. You had detention. As a young mind, you already saw how the system worked. The more you mimicked whiteness, the more you got the good grades, the more teachers paid attention to you, the more you excelled, the more you had the opportunities. Besides, my parents come from two different cultures, and at home I was raised speaking English because it was the common medium. About my tradition and my culture, funny you assume that I don't know or I don't want. My actual surname is Pretorius. My grandfather is Afrikaans from Lichtenburg. And he left South Africa, met my grandmother while living in Zimbabwe, and they had my dad. Oh yeah, no, of course, I don't look colored, but that is my history. I use Molife, my grandmother's surname. So if I was to embrace my roots, as you have accused me of not doing, I'd be embracing a whole nother battle I'm not even ready to handle. So excuse me if I go by Norma to align with connections. I'm sorry that I perpetuate stereotypes and misrepresent parts of myself in order not to rock the boat. I'm sorry that I act rude so that no one tries to talk to me and I don't blow my cover. I'm sorry that I believe that I have to shrink myself in order to be desirable, embraced, and experience parts of life. I'm sorry that I have to silence my anxieties sometimes because I do not know how to make people understand. I'm sorry, most of all, that I think that to be Nomaqhawe Molife needs to look a particular way that people understand. God, why? I am so sick of this. Please just take me. I'm not even breathing on your earth. Why is this my life? Why is this my story? Lo and behold, God did answer me. I got this verse, Jeremiah 1 verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you a prophet among the nations. Snap. So we're really doing this, God. Like, we're actually going to address this. Like, what do you mean? How do I embrace you? If we're going to be honest, how do I embrace you and fully accept my Blackness, my culture, where I come from? Your other followers might not say it, but I know secretly they believe Christianity is a white man's religion. I felt God saying, so God created man in his own image. He made us all equal. To believe that specifically the God that you are seeking, the one of the Bible, is limited and restricted to a particular race means that you're not serving me. You've got the wrong God, because I'm not limited in that way. I created everyone and everyone equally. Funny enough, I wrestled with being vulnerable enough to express that my faith is what has saved me. Initially, not so much the messy Sunday hypocritical performances, but when I was down and out and completely feeling like I had reached the end of my rope. It was when I was ready to be honest and really confront something outside of myself, something that I had heard of, and really test, hey, listen, God, what is going on? And he came in the stillnesses, in the quietness, in ways that were very counterintuitive of the authority figure that I thought he was. Eventually, the messy, hypocritical Sunday services became the place I got to differentiate who God was from people. Be challenged to accept that we aren't perfect, but by the grace God extends to us, we need to extend to other people. So, did that mean you are supposed to let people walk over you? I really struggled with that bit. And I felt God say, listen, Christianity is quite the opposite. It's based on the fact that wherever there's an offense, there's punishment. Justice is central to it. It's just God put it on himself because he loves us. My faith commands me to love and stand for truth, but to do so graciously. I believe that to address mental health issues, there needs to be a spiritual element. You have to believe in the unseen, something bigger or greater than yourself and outside of yourself. Because according to scientific evidence, according to the observations that I've made, there is nothing to hope for. There is no better. Humans are trash. Secondly, there needs to be institutional change. People need to feel like, if I am going to be vulnerable, show me that change is being done. There is nothing worse than putting your heart out there and people look at you and walk the other way, or they pat you, or there isn't a follow-up on the sort of change that's needed. And therefore, I'd like to challenge that institutional change needs to be willing and adaptable to the very complicated social landscape that is there and the different ways in which people are disadvantaged. This is where telling your personal story is important. Whenever you're ready, wherever it feels safe, and however you want. Telling your story helps create a bigger and clearer picture of the extent in which the poison of these toxic social conditions, how much damage they've done, until you tell us, yes, okay, racism is bad. But actually on top of that, when I tried to align with people of color, it ended up becoming, I know, Black people specifically, Indians this side, colored people this side. Without us telling those details, we do not know the extent of the suffering. And finally, it needs to be psychological. You have to want to be reflective. You have to want to feel. You have to want to act. And so, JD, I hand over to you. I do have a set of provocations, but maybe if we can just break the fact that I've been talking for about 25 minutes, and then I will do them. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure. That man, like you took me on a and think you're right when you say that we do have to share our story. We do have to reflect, you know, especially when you spoke about us having to reflect on why do I feel this way? Why do I think this way? And in turn, why do I then act this way? Especially when we're speaking mental health, because your thoughts are what come out of your mouth. What you think of yourself is then what you put out to the world. And you know, man, like so much that you said, I can then look at my own life and I'm like, you know what, literally there was a time similar to what you're sharing where my name would be a sore spot for me. Like literally it would cause me anxiety every school year when people, you know, the teacher will start doing the roll call and start asking, what language do you speak? Where do you come from? What, you get what I mean? What's your home language? And for me, I would be the one Black girl whose name is Jedidah, and we speak English at home because, guys, you don't have Bemba on the list of languages that are spoken. And that would always come with, you know, from my Black people, you too white. And, you know, also the whole thing of who are you? Where do you come from? Why are you different? Why can't you speak our language? And for a long time, that was so much about, you know, part of my that I didn't like in a place where you really, you know, just speaking on self-loathing, because that issue of identity that I was dealing with as a grade 1 child filtered into my high school, where I was now unapproachable. I don't want to hear what you have to say. And then that filtered into my, you know, my adulthood, where I'm defensive because you don't know me, you don't know my story. But to what she's saying, God is so faithful. Like, God is so faithful. Only I think at the age of 27 did I get to a point where I was like, man, I'm tired. Like, I am tired. I literally am tired of this weight that I carry on my shoulders regarding who I think I am. Because in as much as I am a believer, and most of us are believers, and we are told to get our identity from God, most of us don't even believe that. Like, if we're being honest, we just like, you know, yeah, you know, I hear what you're saying, but you know, our past and our experiences, our traumas are actually what have formed our identity. And only at the age of 27, as I was saying, did I get to a point where I was like, you know what, Lord, I'm tired of this. You say your yoke is easy and your burden is light. Man, I need me some of that so that you can give me who I'm supposed to be, you who created me. Give me what my identity should be. Give me the view I should have of myself. And, you know, ever since then, I have really, really, really seen that God does not only answer, but he transforms, as you said. We have to actually seek out a transformation. I mean, look at, you know, look at us now. We're having this conversation. And hadn't the work been done, I don't think the confidence will be there. And so I don't know if you do have any questions or things that you want us to reflect on. We are currently standing at 6:35. So I'll give you perhaps 5 minutes if you can manage that. And then we'll allow people to then reflect, you know, and bring up their stories, and we can take it from there.
Thank you so, so much for just speaking back to what I spoke to. I really, really, yeah, like it's so crazy. I always used to ask myself, and I don't know if there's other people, other participants who've thought this, like, why is it globally Black people just seem more inclined to spirituality, whether it's Christianity, ancestral worship, whatever it is? Why is it that there's always that, you know, an understanding or a sensitivity to the supernatural, the unseen? And I really think it's because of the particular way of brutal suffering that we experience in the world. That in order for us to get up, in order for us to be able to hope, in order for us to be able to even trust that as you bring life into this world, they're gonna make it. Knowing what you know, really, I don't know why we're still trying to have families, right? And going back to the point that I made, that why I think there's a spiritual element to mental health illness, mental health specifically, is the fact that you really do need to look outside of yourself. You really need to hope for something bigger and divine in order to follow through. So I do have a set of provocations for everyone. The student that I am, if you have a pen and paper, but not really. But like, if you can close your eyes, I have a set of provocations, and I'm really hoping that these help you to really think and absorb. It's one thing to come to a talk and if time passes by so fast, and the moment you don't get to soak it in. So I really wanted to dedicate time for people to be able to soak in and reflect on the themes I touched on. So if you can close your eyes, if you're comfortable, if not, if you can be still and breathe. What do you believe about the world? What do you believe about your existence in the world? What do you believe about your role in other people's lives in the world? Give yourself the chance to question your beliefs and why. What does a good life look like according to you? What does a bad life look according to you? Where is your life between that good and between that bad, according to you? Take time to understand where you are instead of existing on autopilot. What are you doing right? What are you doing wrong? Can you fix it? Learn to differentiate what is in your power to do and what isn't in your power to do. Understanding your power helps you set healthy boundaries that keep you safe. Sadly, this is an ongoing, lifelong process of learning and unlearning, relearning, throwing away the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. But it's worthwhile if we do want to create a place that's better for us to exist in.
Mm.
And know that you're entitled to how you choose to do that. Thank you.
Sure. Man. Man, like what you're saying, Noma, and I'm gonna then, open up the floor with this. I think the questions that you have asked feed into how we live our lives. You said, based on the definition of what mental health is, that we would be reflecting on what we think, how we feel, and how we act or how we respond. And I think the questions that you asked are so important because our lives evolve. And with that, with our lives evolving, the reason why we respond to life the way we do provoke me. Why did that move me to tears? Why did that break me down? What is it in me? What is it about my existence, where I come from, my identity, my faith, and my hope that causes me to respond to life this way? Literally, I would consider myself at some point in my life, but thank Jesus for the work of the cross. I was such a pessimist. Like, literally, for me, I never had any. And no, like, if anything's gonna go wrong, I will be the one to tell you this is gonna go wrong, because literally, that was what my life kind of felt like it was. That's the identity I gravitated to. That if anything is gonna go wrong in your life, Jedidah, it's definitely gonna go wrong. There's no way that it could go right. And so, just to throw it to everybody that is on this call, and on this, participating in this session, I just want, if you do have questions, you're welcome to raise your hand. But I just want us to really do reflect. And when we do walk away from this session, to start analyzing and saying, really, do I make these decisions because this is what I believe in? Or is it trauma speaking? Or is it hurt that is speaking? What's actually making me think this way about myself? And so I will open up the floor to anybody who does have questions, who has anything they want to contribute, who also wants to share a story regarding their life and just reflect on what has been brought, to the table by Noma. But more than anything, I want us to also speak on how are you choosing to change the narrative of your life, knowing what you have gone through, knowing the traumas or the identities that you've gravitated to in your life. How are you choosing to be like, this won't be me anymore? This won't be me because I have to show up as a better mother. I have to show up as a better partner. I have to show up, even in the workplace. I just want to show up different. I think it's important that we speak on those things so that we then tell ourselves to be like, yeah, no, as a better version of myself. And so, guys, the floor is open for reflections, for questions, for comments. The floor is open if anybody does have any questions for Nomaqhawe or people. Oh, okay. I see Tabisa's hand is up. Tabisa, you're welcome to unmute your mic and let's hear from you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, JD. And thank you so much, Nomaqhawe, for that powerful, it was so informative. Your presentation was so informative. Like, we don't even know, we're still showing in. I'm sure a lot of us don't even know where to start. Because, with everything that you just said, when as a child, the society teaches you that there's something wrong with you. Your environment, wherever you are, you're being taught that there's something wrong with you. Maybe the way that you speak, because you don't speak like them, then it turns out that there's something wrong with you. And I don't know if it is a mentality that was given to us as people or whatever by the society, that we have to be the same for us to be perfect, or for us to fit into this world. And now I think from this conversation, I'm taking it that me being different actually is what makes me me, because I am not here to be like anybody, but also getting to a space of loving yourself and accepting yourself. Now, I have a question for you. Because it takes time. I think Jadida had said that it took her until she was 27 years old and she was like, I am tired. It took me until I was 30. And then I said, not anymore. I'm going to turn off all these voices in my head, and I'm going to unlearn all these things that I was taught as a child. But what is it? What awakens you? You know, we wish that we could have more younger people who actually unlearn these things early. You know, adversity by the age of 18 years, by the age of 23 years. What is it that we need to do to just awaken from that? Because obviously we have to walk into our true selves and love ourselves for who we are, because we are all beautiful and all special. But what just popped in my mind is like, when do we snap out of it? Do we have to be 27? Do we have to be 30 till we get there? I think that question maybe can be for you also, but for everyone around us as well in this conversation. Thank you so much for the opportunity, my host. Thank you.
Thank you, Thabisa. Noma, do you have a response to that?
Yeah, thank you so much, Thabisa. I think, funny enough, I'm now at a stage where even thinking, and I think Jadida and I have also have conversations about this, I really don't think there's a finish line. I don't think there's so even though you've come at 27 and you've got a new realization, I feel like our existence on earth is different layers, new experiences, new contexts, confront a new part of yourself. You do not know till it's troubling you. And then you have to walk through the darkness of that trouble before you overcome. And I think the beauty in that is there's less pressure to figure yourself out now, and to give yourself grace that it's a process, because the Noma I was as a kid had to actually listen. She had to conform in order to survive. But the Noma that's older, when you realize those guardrails are no longer there, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, I'm not putting a value judgment, but now at this stage, I realize that in order to succeed, there's a level of embracing what makes you different. How many marketing strategies are there about you're different, you're whatever, that's your cutting edge or whatever, you know, those sort of narratives. And so it's only when you're confronted, I feel like the awakening comes in if you're brave enough to confront the different discomforts you experience in the everyday. That's the only way you know. You don't know till it troubles you and you're like, hey. And also it's so important for us to have grace when we don't know. And then furthermore, sometimes something looks like a problem, but maybe it's not even a problem. You're just projecting on someone else. So it's very like, it's murky waters. I don't think I can give you like a cookie cutter answer, but what's most important is having a sort of reflective mindset. And I also don't want us to neglect, just as a final point in answering you, Thabisa, is these things come at a cost. For the 15-year-old who pushes back against their parents and says, I want to be a rapper. Because that's genuinely what they believe with their heart and soul. Their parents might disown them. There's all these things. And so the costs are so great, right? And I think in us allowing ourselves room in how we're figuring out ourselves and standing on different identities. I'm also aware not everyone in this chat is Christian, and maybe you're cringing. But mental health is something that affects everyone. It doesn't matter your color, your religion, your background. But how do we create safe spaces where everyone does not feel threatened? right? We're not creating this conforming, we're not creating another conforming space. We're creating a space that we have the language to be able to allow people to bring their differences. And we talk about, hey, in this difference, you're stepping on my toe. Is there a way we can resolve this? I'm choosing to respect you. Can it be mutual? Yeah.
And you know, from what you're saying, Noma, and just a reminder to everybody, the floor is open. Should you have any questions, want to share a story, you're more than welcome to do so. But to what you are saying, just in response to Tabisa's question, it is definitely a process. You know, it is definitely a process. But more so, what I got from your response is we actually have to dare. Like we have to dare, like, you know what, I want to be better, and me being better will mean having to have those difficult conversations with myself. I can get talking to everybody else, but having to confront the you and why you feel how you feel, because you know, doing that will then at some point require you to actually go back and apologize for your actions. It might require you to go back and be like, you know what, I actually thought I believe that, but I don't. And I just thought we need to have the conversation. You know, many of us have got broken relationships, whether romantic or friendship, whatever kind of relationship it is, that have broken down just because you were at a place in your life, and that's what you believed then. And that's what you were so convicted of then. And so thank you so much, Mandy. But yeah, it is important that we are very self-aware and reflective. Zinhle, please do unmute your mic and let's hear you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, JD, and wow, Nomaqhawe. You have brought in a very big, huge topic, which is talking to self. Self that is not only just self that was just created and there, but that has got so many influences around. So it's too broad in a sense that you are a self because something also influences whatever that you do when you are older. So now when you talk about the things that are stimulus around you, like when people start to comment about you and things like that, they actually really do bring you to that self-loathering, because there are places that you would doubt yourself. But what I'm picking from it is that, or how I have always approached life was that I must always make sure that I'm conscious. In any stage of my life, I have to be conscious. And now that I'm older, I am able to look back to the type of person that I was and try to see, does it fit in to what I am today? I would say, like, in terms of belief, my belief was never about just going to church and just believing in God and all that. As much as my parents were instilling that, but it was also just maybe looking at how the world is. And I was fortunate enough because I grew up in the rural areas. So when you grow up in those places, you get to see a lot. You realize when the sun is coming out. You realize when the sun is going down. You realize when the clouds are starting to change and it's going to rain. There's quite a lot that happens, and then as a child, you connect with that. So when I'm older, it's easy for me to know that I have to be conscious, because I do know that I am a creation from somewhere. So whatever that is coming from outside, that comes a negative. At this stage, I am able to fight it because I'm always in a ground of being conscious. So I think consciousness and being self-aware is very important. And one other aspect that is difficult for us is that now there is this thing of material, like the materialistic things, those things that makes us now think that that is life, but that is not life. in SA. It's just things that are there. Even when we want to acquire those, it is always best to know that you want to acquire those, not to flash them or not to deceive people to think that now this is life. I always say that whatever that I need, that I pray for, and what I say the Creator must bless me with, it must be something because I need to have. For example, I need to have a roof over my head. Then I need to pray for that. I need to make sure that my kids go to school. I need to pray for more money because I need to be able to take my kids through education. If I pray for a car, if I say I want a luxury car, I say I want a luxury car because it's safer to ride in on the road, not because it is something that I need to flash on. So that's why I'm saying whatever that you do, if you can start to do it consciously, and then you start not materializing things, and then you can also limit this a thing of self-loathering and thinking that you must be like you must fit in spaces. I know when I was growing up, I was not this person that was like too talkative, and I was not even in a space where I could say I can motivate. But at this stage, I can be able to say that. I can be able to say now at this stage I can coach. But when I was growing up, I had a little bit of low self-esteem because I was tiny with my body, and I would always be like, "You also in doing a grade 10, so small." And in my mind, I was like, "But I'm same age with you. It's just that I'm tiny in my body and all that." So those things, yes, they can actually get into you. But as you grow older, and when you start to reflect on how you have how you grew up and everything, then you start to be able to conquer those things, and you know that they don't matter. Even now, people would think that you are in this position, but you're so young. And in my mind, I'll be like, you know what? People that are younger than me, I'm even better position. This is like, you are just looking at my body. You don't even know my age, you know? So those things are always there, but we just know that we don't entertain them. We focus on who we are, on what we are doing, and we don't really focus on what other people think about us. But I love your approach to the topic, and I love how you also are taking it. Thank you, Chidera.
Jadeda, you unmuted.
Sorry, guys. I was just saying thank you so much, Zinhle, for your contribution. You know, like Noma was saying, it's important that we have these spaces so that, to Zinhle's point, right, we get to hear these stories. To get encouraged, minded what people have to say. So thank you so much, Zinhle, for your contribution. I will just pass the mic on to DK Lady, and then we'll ask you for your final words because we are coming closer to the end of our session. So DK Lady, please do unmute your mic. I will give you 2 minutes for you to share your story or your contribution or your question. The floor is open, ma'am.
Thank you, Jadada. I'll only have a contribution, not a question. And I'd like to say, Norma, you had me standing and screaming the whole time. You know, I was just like here, just clapping, and my kids are thinking I'm just crazy, you know, because it's difficult really to have a clear picture of who you are. You know, as human beings, we are constantly learning. And here's the thing, it's human nature to expect validation. I mean, think about it. From the moment that you are born, you are taught how to live, how to navigate life. So everything is no, yes, you can do this, you cannot do that. So it is easy to take criticism even from the wrong people, because that's human nature, that's who we are, and that's how we grew up. So, you know, nobody says to you, the experiences that you go through, it's actually lessons, you know, that you're supposed to cut some and keep some, that everything that you go through, it's supposed to shape who you are. Because as you were born, you don't know who you are, what you like, what you dislike, and all those things. But where you are raised, you know, and the experiences that you go through, the churches that you go to, the area where you live in, it influences who you become, you know, and how you think and how you view the world. So we're constantly learning. And, you know, as we're constantly learning, you cannot really say at age 16 or 21, I've got to have myself figured out. You know, I already know this and that. You know, there was a point in my life where I disliked veggies. I disliked the taste of it. And then I ate it because, you know, the parents are forcing me to eat it. And then I ate it because, you know, I knew that it's good for me, until I got to a point where I actually enjoy it. You know, now it's not forced, you know, for me to eat that. So we're constantly growing and learning. And there's some things that you also cut out. I was never lactose intolerant. Now I'm lactose intolerant. I cannot even enjoy cheese in peace, you know, because there's things that you keep, there's things that you let go of. So for every lesson that you go through, or every experiences that you go through, it is important to have time out to reflect and look at yourself and say, what is it that I'm taking out of this experience? And look at the positives, you know, take the good things that actually make you happy. Don't focus on this one approves, this one does not approve of this lifestyle. You know, if it's something that speaks to you, that makes you happy, then go for it. It's something that you must follow. Because a lot of times, you know, we make decisions because of other people, you know, to say, oh, this is going to be accepted. You know, I can marry like outside of my race because, you know, my family allows it, or they don't have a problem with it. But if my family is, you know, more, let's say, they are racist, because Black people can be racist as well. You will not marry outside of your race because your family does not allow that. So it's things like that. Look at what it is that makes you happy and go with it. Thank you so much. I'll just leave it at that. Otherwise, I'll just have a lot to.
Thank you, Dike Lady. Thank you so much for your contribution. And you know, what you were saying also speaks to some of the questions, reflective questions that Noma had thrown and given to us, to be like, what is your definition of success? You know, what is your view of the world? Your view. She didn't ask what's your neighbor's view, what's your family's view. It's what's your view. Where are you? Where do you see yourself fitting in this space? So Noma, I will just have to call out one more person because they haven't raised their hands, but I'll just call out one person just to hear what their thoughts are and what their reflections are, and then I'll hand it over to you to have your final words, and we can call it a night. Is Victor available? Is Victor available? Could you please unmute your mic, Victor? Let's hear, what are your reflections? What are your takeaways from this conversation?
Thank you, guys. Thank you, I appreciate for the time given. And Noma, thank you so much for what I've just unloaded. I think it's the realities of life. The structure of life has been best built on an equality basis. That's why you get those priorities of in terms of who's white, who's Black. But in the sense, we all got the same blood, meaning we are the same people. The color of our skin is just a container. And people now bring their frustrations in terms of how they've grown up, who has brought them up, and they tend to bring those, throw them at us, and that gets to affect us. But then how do we deal with that is what actually, Noma, you've highlighted, and I've learned a lot. I appreciate a lot, guys. It's my first time today, but I hope next time I'll be able to contribute much more. Thank you so much.
Should I jump in there, JD?
I think you can. I think she's a bit
Okay.
frozen.
Thank you so much, Victor, for that. The sum up. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Again, guys, so I do not have power, hence this very shaky situation. I'm feeling so self-conscious that you can only see my teeth. But in closing, thank you so much to everybody. I think it's Dike Lady, Victor and Zinhle, that I didn't get to acknowledge your contribution. Thank you so much for your comments and feedback and thoughts as well, for sharing them. In closing, I guess what I'd like to close off with is, you know, I think we really need to sit in the fact that it's complicated, and that's okay. Our lives are complicated. There's compromises that need to be made. But at the end of it, in the compromises that you need to make, can you sit with yourself? Are you okay with the compromises that you've made? And why I say that is maybe you've managed to get the job that will pay well, you'll be okay, and this is what you desperately wanted. But they do not allow braids, they do not allow cornrows, you have to wear a weave. And that goes completely against you embracing who you are. Are you gonna quit? Are you gonna carry on? I can't tell you what to do. Life is so complex. If I was to give another example of the sort of pressures we experience with our families, where they can be so demanding with our time and our efforts. But you know, actually, in as much as that is the cost of having them in your life, you know, cutting that, you're not ready to cut them off, because like, this is your space of familiarity. This is a place where you do want to feel affirmed. This is a space where you want to feel accepted, you know? And so it's a constant negotiation, a back and forth. And so when it comes to mental health, firstly, have grace over yourself. Dare to want better, like JD said. In wanting better, you allow yourself the opportunity to sit and to think, to go to those very uncomfortable parts of your life experiences and ask why. But you don't have to do it alone. It's so much harder alone. Find a friend, find a safe space such as these. Thank you so much, guys, for believing in your dream and creating this platform. Find a therapist, something that if you have to pay for a stranger to feel safe enough to talk about your story, do what you need to do. But even that, I mean, there's classism in that, because your paycheck and your livelihood cannot afford you to spare money to see a therapist, you know? So it's really complicated, and afford yourself the grace, dare to want better for yourself, but know that you're constantly evolving, but keep reflecting on the sort of values and the sort of things that you can live with, and not the things where you are like, oh my gosh, I regret having done this. And equally so, extend that sort of grace to the next person. And just as a reminder, like I said, I do think that these sort of conversations, there's a spiritual element, there needs to be institutional change, and a psychological willingness from ourselves to want to tackle them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Noma. Thank you for sitting in the dark to have this conversation. Thank you so much. And yeah, just to summarize and you know, bring the session to an end, it is just that life is complicated. We don't have the answers to it all, but we see through the lives of others that it is possible for us to get to a place where it's actually clearer, it actually makes more sense. But through going through the process, being kind to yourself, being generous to yourself, being gentle with yourself, there'll be days that you will get it right and you'll be like, yeah, you know, I'm more comfortable and more confident in this area. And there'll be days where you will relapse and you're like, I thought I had it, but I don't. Even in that, take the moments, like Dikeledi said, as moments of learning, moments of growth. I promise you, at the end of it all, the moment you dare to look within yourself and you dare to get to know yourself better, it will all make sense, and the cup does fill up. It really does fill up. Those moments of challenges, those moments of uncertainty, they are all drops in a cup that will fill up, and one day it will run over and you will be able to look back and be like, wow, actually, I am grateful for that. I am grateful for that experience. I'm grateful for that conversation. I'm grateful for that friendship. I'm grateful for my family. And so as Pro Positive, with everything that we stand for, there really is hope. There really is health available. Joy is possible. You might be in a place where you're not really feeling joy, but like if we could all share our lifeline stories, you will find that it really is possible for you to get to a place where you can genuinely be happy. And for me personally, I have to say God has been very much a part of that journey. And so if you are a believer, I will encourage you to continue going to God for help and for sustenance and for guidance. And if you're not a believer, even that, trust the process, that it will get you to a place where you are definitely better, more healthier, more confident, and more happier. Actually, it is possible. And so thank you everybody for joining us. We were so grateful to have you, and we thank you again, Nomaqhawe, for giving us your time and for saying yes, to this session. So thank you everybody for joining. We do wish you a wonderful evening and a wonderful weekend ahead. May God bless you and have a wonderful night, everyone. And goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Good night, everybody. Good night, good night, good
Good
night.
night. Bye.
Bye, friend.
Bye. Thank you so much again.
We still have Beverly. Good night, Beverly.